increased confidence, learning to trust myself to do this work, and being able to help a young woman who passed and didn't even know that she had died all happened for me very early on my path. I'd like to share that with you today. When I first started doing this work, an interesting thing happened, and I suggest you stay open to this possibly happening to you as well if you decide to step into this work. So I worked with my guide, Big Dog, for a long time. He was the one that helped me to understand what the work was, what I was going to be doing with it, et cetera, et cetera. And he was amazing. I didn't really have someone living. Actually, I didn't have anyone who was living who was doing the work that I could ask questions of and train with or anything like that, which is why I created the course Crossing Over, because I wanted to be able to support people that are going out there and doing this work with as much information about crossing over as possible. But I personally didn't have that teacher when I first started, but I did have Big Dog. I did have my guide. And I leaned on him to ask him questions and figure out what I wanted to do. But what happened was, and again, this could happen to you, when I agreed to do the work and said, okay, I'm willing to help in any situation that presents itself, I am willing to help. And upon doing that, situations started to present themselves in really odd and unusual ways. And I tell you that because, like I said, it might happen to you. If you step in and say, hey, I'm willing to help and I'm willing to do this work, you just might have, as we like to say, magically new situations dumped into your lap to say, hey, here's a situation where you can help out. This is because the guides hear us. When we say that we're willing to help a spirit who's stuck, the guides know that. So if they can reach out to you so you can help their person, they will absolutely do that. And that's what happened. I was in a small town with my kids. There was a small local town, and there was a community rec hall that was connected to a small college. My kids were there playing basketball, and they were just doing drills. It was a pretty typical basketball practice day. So I took my laptop and I took my work and I went down the hallway of the rec hall, looked for a room where I could sit and do my work. Found this neat little small room. It was kind of like a reading room, sort of. There was one big table in the middle and books on the shelf and things like that. Very quiet, perfect place to work. So sat down, got my laptop all set up, and the light started to flicker in the room. And I remember thinking, well, this is a really old building. That makes sense. And I kept working. And then they flickered again. And I thought, yeah, really old building. And then I kept working and then they flickered again. And I said, okay, I get it. Is someone there? Like, and then boom, the lights went off and they came back on. And it wasn't even a flicker. It was a shot. It was off and then back on. And I said, is there something that you would like me to know? The lights went off, boom, right back on. And so thus started the conversation between me and someone in the room. And the more I asked yes and no questions, it became really clear that, and we set it up this way, okay, what does it mean when you say yes, the lights would go off and turn back on? What does it mean if you say no, the lights would just turn off? And then I'd say, okay, got it. And then the lights would turn on. Kind of a neat little system, but it worked well. So between the yes and the no's and, those goosebump sort of feelings, I navigated my way to understanding that it was a woman that was communicating with me in spirit form. This woman had been crossed over, and she was older and she felt very much like she was in charge. Like perhaps she maybe had worked there or she was local, but she was very much kind of a doer, an organizational kind of doer sort of feeling. And she expressed to me through these yes and no questions that the building needed to be cleared. And I only asked that because I was so new stepping into this. And I was like, is this happening? Yeah, it was happening. Right after that last bit of communication, the basketball coach walked in the room. And I was like, hey, coach, what's up? And I recall that he wanted to talk to me about logistics, about games, things like that. No big deal. But I said, can I just I sparked a conversation with him. I said, can I tell you something that seems really odd? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. I said, I feel like this building might be haunted. And he was like, it totally is. He says, and I'm totally into that stuff. Turns out that most people that worked there or were there quite frequently would report different noises or catching things out of the corner of their eye. And so it had become known that this school was, quote unquote haunted. And I said, well, I'm a medium and I, clear spaces. If you'd like me to come and see if I can do a clearing on the building, I'd be willing to do that. And he said, absolutely. I'm going to put you in charge with these ladies that run the whole show for the school, and they'll get in touch with you, which is exactly what happened. Talked to the ladies and said, I'd be happy to come in and clear the building. I didn't even charge anything. I wasn't like really working as a spiritual clearing professional yet. I was really getting my footing. And they thought it was great. They booked it. It was like a week or two away. It wasn't urgent clearing because no one was really getting hurt or things weren't going wrong. It was just a matter of, yeah, there is someone in the building and if we could get it cleared. So I booked it. And then a couple of days later, I was at a friend's house and they had a few other friends over, and it was a few people that were like psychics and intuitives. And there was one male who was a psychic. And upon hearing that I was going to clear the building after a lot of other discussion that night about being new and what I'm doing and stepping into spiritual clearings, et cetera, because we were all talking intuition. When he heard that I was scheduled to go clear that college, he stepped up to me, and I'll never forget this because it's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine when people use intuition for something that they want. Under the guise of intuition. And he said, I'm getting a message. And I think the hand was in the air, sort of little dramatically there. I'm getting the message that you need me to do this clearing. Okay, Bo, don't worry about it. You don't have to do this. I'm going to go in and I'll do the clearing. And I just kind of stood there and I was so new and shy, and I was like the newest of the newbies in the group. And I just said, okay. Yeah, I didn't really fight back, which I probably should have, but I didn't. And that's what he did. He came in, talked to the ladies, turned it into a lecture where he was selling books. And, it turned into this big thing. And I remember thinking that I wasn't here for the show. I was here to do work and to help. So it was great to have that contradiction happening where I could witness someone that was there for the show, that was there to be known, that was there to say, look what I can do. And then I was there and I felt very strongly that I was there for a different reason. That really sat with me somewhere deep in my heart. And I think it really helped me to grab on to this space of being humble when you do this work. You're doing the work to do the work, not to be famous for doing the work. So it really settled in to do the work for the right reasons, and then the work comes. And over time, that's exactly what happened. But I did let myself get a little bit railroaded there, which we've all done in our lives in different situations, but it happened. And I was able during the clearing to kind of break away from that scene and step into a different room on my own, because I really needed to center and focus. And I wanted to do something good there. I wanted to feel like I was thinking to myself, I was approached by a female spirit who asked me to come in clear. Maybe she asked me to come in clear because she knew I would get this gentleman to come in here and clear. Maybe it wasn't supposed to be for me. All that doubt went through. And then I said, you know what? No, I agreed I would do this work. I'm going to do it. What do I need in order to do it right now? To reach out and say to any of the spirits that are stuck in the building, do you need help? And I knew instantly that I needed to be alone. So I stepped out, went into a different room, and got centered, focused, GCP, deep breaths, and then said, is there anyone that needs my help? And I felt a female spirit come through, and she was very confused. And she was younger. I could tell by her clothing that I didn't really feel like she was, current day, that maybe she was back from like the 60s or the 50s, not 50s, probably 60s or 70s. And she was really confused. She said, I'm lost. And was like, okay. And I tried working with her. It wasn't even that I could hear her so much as I could sort of feel her thoughts and understand her confusion. And I went to say, do you see a light? I was trying to go with some of the basics that I thought. Do you see a light? And she was just still confused. Do you see this? Still confused. So this is where I leaned on my spirit guide, Big Dog, and said, I'm not sure what to do here. Like I see her, I know she's stuck, but she's so confused that I don't know what to do. And he was like, just connect through love. And I remember reaching my hand out to her, and she saw that I was doing it. And so she reached her hand out. Something so small like that can break up that confusion. Just to have something, in essence, I was like an anchor for her, just to be able to anchor for a second. And I was like, do you know that you've passed? Do you know that you've died? And she's like, no, 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 I haven't. I took something and I'm really confused. So I said, okay, let's just calm the confusion, filled the whole area with white light, surrounded her with white light. I like tried to visualize raising her vibration, bringing in light from the other side. Like I tried a bunch of things like that, all with love. And I don't know which one worked or if it was all of them that worked. But by doing that, I saw her start to calm, and I saw her start to focus. And then I could hear her. I can't say I couldn't, it's hard to explain. I couldn't really hear her, but I could feel her thoughts process, say, oh, okay, like an acceptance. And then I saw her dissipate. Now, for me, when somebody crosses over, they just sort of dissipate, and they go very translucent, and then they're gone. It's kind of a kicker, because it'd be great if like a little sign came up and said, ding, 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 they crossed over. You done good. It'd be great, but that's not the case. And so I checked in with Big Dog again and said, is she okay? He says, yeah, she crossed over. I felt so much better. Like I hadn't wasted all of like my emotions and energy on something and not have been able to help. So that was a real it was kind of a win for both her and myself to say, you know what, I can do this. I don't need some other showboat to tell me I can't. And I need to just be focused in on what I do and do the work when I'm called to do it. So it was super great growth moment for me, growth in confidence. And it was just a really positive turn. I did chat with the ladies, and turns out there was a young woman back in, I don't recall if it was the late 60s or early 70s, that had gotten in a car accident on the way to school. And so she had just been on a drug or two, had a bad trip. And when she passed away, when the accident happened, she thought she was still on a bad trip. Now, I get this question a lot. Do you run into people that didn't know that they were deceased, that didn't know that they had died? And I don't actually. It's only a handful of people that I can think of that I've run into in the in-between that didn't actually know what was happening to them. And that one kind of made sense, because she just thought she was still on a really bad drug trip, which is unfortunate, but I was able to help her. We wrapped all of that up. There was one other male spirit in the stairwell that got my attention in one of the big rooms. And I did mention it to the gentleman that was running the show, and he did help him cross over as well. So in the end, it was all love. Everyone was doing very good, but it was a great experience for me to learn how important it is for you to be creative in your thought process, to go with that gut on what to do when you do it, and to try things to see if they work when it comes to spiritual crossings. And that's really what I did. Also, to know that they're going to show up. If you're available, a situation like that's going to show up. And lastly, I learned to have confidence to be able to step into these situations and know that I can handle them. It was really good. Talk about growth, right? But most importantly, we were able to get into that building, cross over a number of spirits that were stuck. So it wasn't just one. And that wonderful woman who came through from the other side was able to get my attention and get all of us actually there to do some really good work. Because in the end, ghosts are people too.
This podcast is brought to you by the SAGE Method, the most comprehensive and down-to-earth intuitive development training available. Is this your year? Is it finally your time to increase your intuition, bring in more abundance, and experience the bliss you deserve? If yes, then join thousands of students across the world for a 7-week journey to uncover your natural, beautiful, and strong intuition. Visit us at thesagemethod.com for more information.